I want you to take a second and think about a sliding doors moment in your own life.
Yeah, you know the kind we mean.
Right. A single, seemingly insignificant choice that spawned a completely different reality. For me, it was a few years ago. I decided to take a different route to a coffee shop because of some street construction, and ended up bumping into an old college friend I hadn't seen in a decade. That random conversation led directly to a major career change.
Wow.
Yeah, if they hadn't been fixing that pothole on 4th Street, my entire life trajectory would look completely different today. It's a deeply fascinating concept to play around with in your head.
It really is.
The idea that infinite versions of our lives are branching out from every little micro choice we make.
It's captivating because it touches on something fundamental about how we experience regret or ambition and fate. And it's a concept that absolutely dominated the cultural imagination.
Specifically at the end of the 20th century.
Ex-
Which brings us directly to the mission of our deep dive today. We are going to explore how two incredibly iconic 1990s films, the 1997 British romantic comedy Sliding Doors
A classic.
and the 1998 German techno-thriller Run Lola Run, we're looking at how they use these mind-bending, time-looping narratives.
But they didn't just use them to entertain us with fun what-if scenarios.
No, not at all. According to the research we are unpacking today, these films were actually highly sophisticated tools.
Right.
Tools used to subtly rewire our entire understanding of national identity and to redefine what a successful life is supposed to look like in a modern, globalized world.
To set the scene for this, I want you listening to do a quick exercise for the mind's eye. Picture a giant ticking clock face.
Okay, I've got it.
Now imagine that clock face is superimposed over a constantly shifting, hyper-modern, almost digital map of London and Berlin.
Like the borders are blurring.
Exactly. The streets are lighting up like fiber optic cables. That image represents exactly how these two historic cities were being fundamentally reimagined during this era.
It is the perfect visual for the dense but totally fascinating academic chapter acting as our guide today.
It's titled National Identity in the Global City.
Right, extracted from the text Deleuze, Cinema, and National Identity. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Because I have always loved the crazy complex structures of these two films. You have Sliding Doors, which gives us two simultaneous parallel universes playing out side by side based on whether a woman catches a train.
Yeah.
And then you have Run, Lola, Run, which replays its frantic 20-minute timeline 3 completely different times.
On the surface, it feels like they are throwing out the rule book of traditional linear storytelling.
They certainly present themselves as avant-garde rule breakers, but to really analyze what they are doing, we need to look at the philosophical backbone of this source.
Which relies heavily on the French philosopher Gilles Deleuze. Deleuze categorized how cinema treats time into two major buckets.
Okay.
The time image and the movement image.
I'm going to need you to break those down for me, because the text draws a massive line in the sand between the two.
Sure. Think of the time image as a shattered mirror. It's a labyrinthine, ungrounded web of time where multiple conflicting truths exist all at once.
Like in classic European art films.
Exactly. Think of Federico Fellini's 8.5 or Alain Resnais's Last Year at Marienbad. In those films, you really can't trust what's past, present, or future.
Memory and reality just kind of blur.
Right. The film refuses to give you one single objective timeline.
So what's the movement image then?
The movement image is a straight road. It's your classic linear cause and effect narrative.
The standard Hollywood model.
Exactly. Time is strictly measured by a character's physical movement through space from point A to point B, trying to achieve a specific goal.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. The central argument of this chapter, and this is a huge aha moment when I read it, is that while Sliding Doors and Run Lola Run dress themselves up as these complex, shattered mirror time images.
They're secretly just linear movement images in disguise.
Yes. They are basically straight roads pretending to be labyrinths. They give you the illusion that you are watching infinite choices and ungrounded realities.
But they actually reduce the massive, uncontrollable complexity of life down to a very simple, heavily rigged multiple-choice test.
Right. The author brings in film theorist David Bordwell to explain the mechanics of this. Bordwell argues these films rely on folk psychology.
Meaning they take an idea that is genuinely terrifying and incomprehensible to the human brain.
Like infinite, meaningless, branching reality.
Exactly. And they shrink it down to a cognitively safe binary.
Or, in Lola's case, a multiple choice of 3.
But I know you're probably struggling to see why filmmakers would go through all that structural gymnastics.
Yeah, why go to the trouble of building a complex parallel universe movie if you already know exactly which single universe is the correct one?
Right.
Why build a maze if you're just going to draw a thick red line right to the exit?
Because it's an incredibly effective rhetorical device to teach the audience a lesson. The text makes a brilliant comparison to a film most people know.
The classic post-World War II movie, It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, George Bailey, the ultimate what if I never existed story.
Precisely. In that film, the forking paths structure isn't just for fun. It presents a highly specific weighted choice to the returning American servicemen of the 1940s.
You can choose the wholesome, community-focused values of Bedford Falls, which the film screams is the right choice.
Or you can choose the soulless, hyper-capitalist nightmare of Pottersville.
Which is clearly the wrong choice.
What our source argues is that Sliding Doors and Run Lola Run adapt that exact same persuasive structure for the 1990s.
They present a weighted choice to the viewer about the right and wrong ways to survive in a newly globalized, service-based economy.
Let's look at exactly how Sliding Doors pulls this trick off. For anyone who hasn't seen it recently, the film follows Helen, played by Gwyneth Paltrow.
She gets fired from her sleek PR job in London.
She goes down to the London Underground, and as she's running for the train, her life literally splits in two.
Right. If she slides through the doors and catches the train, we get blonde Helen.
She goes home early, catches her boyfriend Jerry in bed with his ex, dumps him immediately, gets a sassy blonde haircut,
Starts her own incredibly successful PR firm.
and falls in love with a wealthy, supportive guy named James.
And then the film contrasts that with the alternate path.
The deeply miserable path. If the doors close and she misses the train, we get brunette Helen.
Because she's late, she doesn't catch the cheating boyfriend, so she stays in a toxic relationship.
She can't find another corporate job, so she ends up working two exhausting menial jobs delivering sandwiches and waitressing, and she just looks beaten down by life.
What's fascinating here is how perfectly Helen's two lives map onto the stark economic reality of 1990s London.
During this specific period, London was aggressively shifting away from an industrial manufacturing-based economy to a high-end services-based economy.
The text heavily quotes sociologist Saskia Sassen to explain this. Sassen points out that this economic shift created a deeply polarized global city.
On one end of the spectrum, you have extremely lucrative producer services.
Like finance, tech, high-end PR.
On the other end, that massive influx of wealth creates a huge demand for low-wage support jobs to service that wealthy elite.
It's the birth of the modern gig economy. I mean, think about your own city right now.
For every highly paid software engineer working in a glass tower, there are delivery drivers, baristas, and cleaners.
People whose entire economic existence is based on servicing that engineer's lifestyle.
And the two Helens represent those two exact extremes. Blonde Helen gets a bank loan, starts her own PR firm, and her very first client is her new boyfriend's buddy, who is opening a gentrified, expensive riverside restaurant.
She represents the new elite.
Brunette Helen is the underclass. The film literally traps her in the low-wage jobs required to support people like Blonde Helen.
She's waitressing in those exact same expensive restaurants and delivering sandwiches to the very corporate offices she used to work in.
It is a ruthless economic allegory disguised as a lighthearted romantic comedy.
The film uses a classic makeover trope, but updates it for the 90s. Instead of a wealthy corporate tycoon transforming a poor woman into a lady like in My Fair Lady or Sabrina Blonde Helen, is transformed by the globalized free market itself.
Her entrepreneurial success is what makes her glow.
And her new boyfriend, James, acts as a sort of ideal neoliberal partner. He encourages her business ventures without controlling her, which perfectly mirrors the deregulated free market political policies of the era.
I found the source's analysis of Gwyneth Paltrow's actual star persona to be so perceptive, because this is a distinctly British production set in London.
But they cast a massive American A-lister in the lead role.
And the text argues this isn't just about box office draw. Paltrow's American glamour serves as a metaphor for the massive influx of American corporate finance that was aggressively gentrifying London at the time.
There's this one montage where Blonde Helen is painting the walls of her new startup office, and she keeps changing her stylish sweaters to perfectly match the emerging decor of the room.
The source calls this a literal makeover of the city itself. Through Helen, London is being transformed from a dowdy, traditional English lady into a glamorous, Americanized global city dame.
But that glamour comes at a significant cost, which is the deliberate erasure of the actual local city.
If you look closely at the London portrayed in Sliding Doors, there's a glaring demographic absence.
As the critic Moya Luckett notes in the chapter, the film creates a vacuum at the center of the nation.
Look at the main cast. Helen is American. Her supportive new boyfriend James is Scottish. Her cheating ex Jerry is Irish. Her best friend is Irish.
Wait, you're right, now that you lay it out like that.
Where are the actual English Londoners?
They completely hollowed out the local identity to create this story.
The city is being actively sold to the viewer as a whitewashed anywhere for transnational professionals. It's pitching a fantasy where you don't need any connection to English national history to succeed.
You just need capital and a good business plan.
But by doing this, the film deliberately ignores the post-colonial diasporas.
It completely erases the real, highly diverse immigrant populations of London who are actually working the brutal, low-wage jobs that brunette Helen temporarily suffers through.
It sells the shiny promise of globalization while hiding the human reality of who actually runs this city.
So Sliding Doors uses the illusion of romantic choice to sell us on a corporate, gentrified London.
Does Lola Run do the exact same thing for Berlin, or is it playing a fundamentally different game?
Because this movie is pure adrenaline compared to a rom-com. Lola has exactly 20 minutes to find 100,000 Deutschmarks to save her boyfriend, Manny,
Who left his mob boss's money on a subway train.
We watch her run through the streets of Berlin 3 different times. The first 2 runs end in absolute tragedy.
Either she gets accidentally shot by the police, or Manny gets run over by an ambulance.
But in the 3rd run, she survives, walks into a high-end casino, bets everything on a single spin of a roulette reel, wins the exact amount of money she needs, and saves the day.
At first glance, the film's relentless kinetic energy makes it seem like a pure exercise in chaos theory.
It totally feels like a textbook example of the butterfly effect. Every time Lola runs down the stairs of her apartment building, she encounters a punk kid with a dog.
In the first run, she just runs past.
In the 2nd run, the kid trips her, she falls down the stairs, and that minor delay of a few seconds completely changes who she interacts with on the street.
In the 3rd run, she literally leaps over the dog. And the film does these rapid-fire photo montages showing us how these tiny variations in Lola's speed completely alter the life destinies of the random strangers she runs past.
That's certainly how it presents itself to the audience. But the deeper analysis in our source argues something quite different.
The text brings in the philosophies of Henri Bergson and his famous debate with Albert Einstein over the nature of time.
Okay, we definitely need to define what that debate was before we apply it to a punk rock girl running through Berlin.
Of course. In the early 20th century, Einstein argued that time is objective, measurable, and mathematical. It's the ticking of a clock. Bergson, on the other hand, argued that human beings don't experience time as math. We experience it as duration.
A subjective, fluid, psychological state where the past constantly informs the present.
Our source argues that while Lola Run dresses up as a Bergsonian film fluid, subjective, showing how a split-second feeling changes destiny, it actually operates entirely on Einstein's rigid mathematical time.
Because of the strict 20-minute countdown.
Yes, but more importantly, because it's not actually random chaos. It's highly linear. Lola learns across the timelines.
It's structured almost exactly like a video game.
In the first 2 runs, she isn't just experiencing different realities. She is gaining experience points.
When she encounters that growling dog on the 3rd run, she doesn't just randomly leap over it. She actively hones her trademark glass-shattering scream to stop the dog in its tracks.
And then, crucially, she takes that specific knowledge and uses that exact same scream later in the casino to magically influence the roulette ball to land on her winning number.
She is carrying knowledge from one universe to the next.
Which means time isn't a labyrinth of equal possibilities. There is a fixed, linear progression toward a correct outcome, and she is simply learning the cheat codes to get there.
If she's learning the cheat codes to the universe, what does this say about the city she's running through? Because the Berlin in this movie doesn't look like the Berlin you see in history books.
No, it feels like a video game level.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the film is actively participating in a massive cultural rebranding of post-war Germany.
Much like Sliding Doors ignored the native population of London, Lola Run almost completely ignores the heavy historical reality of a divided Berlin.
There are hardly any lingering, somber shots of the Brandenburg Gate or the remnants of the Berlin Wall.
In fact, there's a telling moment early in the film where Lola's taxi driver gets confused because There's a Grunwaldstrasse in the east and one in the west.
The film uses this to imply that the two sides of the formerly divided, traumatized city are now just completely interchangeable streets on a map.
The source actually refers to the film's version of Berlin as a rewired global node, a cyberspace obstacle course.
It acts as a kinetic advertisement for Berlin as a fully integrated hub in the global tech economy.
Think about the sensory experience of the film. A pulsating techno soundtrack, cyberpunk fashion, and a seamless, hyperactive blending of different media.
35mm color film, grainy black and white video, and literal cartoon animation.
It looks like an MTV music video, designed specifically to appeal to a global youth market. It advertises a frictionless city where East seamlessly meets West.
We even see Manny smuggling illicit diamonds across borders and instantly converting them to cash in a blind alley.
It's all about the hustle. It's about navigating the system fast. And you can see that in who Lola is forced to rely on.
Right. In the wrong runs, the timelines that end in death, she tries to get the money from her father, who is a wealthy, traditional bank executive.
He represents the old, patriarchal, bureaucratic state. And he completely rejects her. He refuses to bail her out.
So what does the movie tell you to do when the old institutional safety nets fail you?
You take a massive individual risk.
Exactly. You don't ask the bank for help. You walk into the casino. You bypass the old system entirely.
You rely on your own entrepreneurial spirit, your sheer force of will, and your magic scream to win big on the roulette wheel.
That is the ultimate ideological lesson of the film. The global city rewards those who take charge of their own destiny and embrace extreme risk, ignoring the cumbersome safety nets and moralities of the past.
So what does this all mean for us, the viewers who just thought we were watching cool movies?
We have these two incredibly stylish, beloved 90s films, one in London, one in Berlin.
They both play with time, they both feature parallel realities, but our source is arguing they're doing the exact same ideological heavy lifting.
They're synthesizing a very specific message for a very specific emerging demographic, the new transnational professional.
For this rising global elite, the labyrinth of time is a highly appealing metaphor. It represents a fluid, rootless identity.
It tells them that they aren't tied down by national borders or class history or local geography. They have infinite choices.
They can cross borders, change careers, and reinvent themselves at will.
But the text argues that they don't leave that labyrinth open forever. They always reterritorialize that freedom.
Reterritorialization is a heavy Deleuzian concept, but in this context, think of it like a sandbox.
The films tell you that you can build absolutely anything you want in this infinite sandbox of time. But by the end of the runtime, they violently shut the sandbox down, validating only one single creation as the right one.
They validate the path of the independent, risk-taking, upwardly mobile global capitalist.
Blonde Helen's lucrative PR firm is the right path. Lola's massive casino payout is the right path.
Which means they are completely disavowing the marginalized people who don't fit into that neat little capitalist box.
By framing poverty and struggle as a wrong timeline, or merely the result of a bad choice, the films imply that if you are suffering in the new global economy, it's just because you missed a train or you tripped on the stairs.
It frames the harsh systemic realities of the global underclass like brunette Helen working two exhausting jobs just to survive as an easily avoidable personal failure.
The implication is that if you just have enough entrepreneurial spirit, you can hit a magical reset button and be wealthy.
And just to be clear for you listening, as we synthesize these ideas, we are simply unpacking the author's academic argument here.
We aren't taking a stance on whether 1990s neoliberalism or free market economics were ultimately good or bad for society.
But it is crucial to understand how the source sees this specific ideological blueprint, this intense focus on individual responsibility over systemic support, deliberately hidden inside the shiny formal experimentation of pop culture.
It really makes you rethink the media you grew up with, doesn't it?
To summarize our deep dive today, Sliding Doors and Run Lola Run were incredibly fun, formally inventive films that captivated audiences worldwide.
But beneath their stylish surfaces, they were highly effective vehicles for redefining national identity for a new era.
They taught viewers that traditional nationality and local history no longer mattered. What truly mattered was your ability to adapt, reinvent yourself, and succeed in a deregulated, high-speed, globalized economy.
They presented the dazzling illusion of infinite choice, while carefully, quietly guiding the viewer toward a very singular corporate vision of success.
Which brings me to a final thought I want to leave you with. If these 1990s films use parallel universes and time loops to train us to accept a very specific corporate vision of what a good life looks like, take a look at the media you are consuming today.
We are currently living through an absolute cultural obsession with multiverse narratives in our superhero blockbusters and streaming shows.
Infinite realities are everywhere. But if the labyrinth of choices is always rigged to favor one right ending, who is writing the right and wrong endings for the infinite universes you are dreaming about today? Think about it. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.